Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a late start of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Live. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Octavius, the Tiberius, the alleged backyard, one-time knockout, straight edge, hardcore, about to get his ass kicked in the draft hero.
Trying to channel your inner Rock or something? Is that what you're trying to do?
Why's it got to be Rock? Why couldn't it be like Jonathan Coachman?
No, because you kind of sound like The Rock.
The Doctor style
the
slick.
Long dramatic pause.
I'm a good orator. I know how to speak.
You got good oratory skills.
Thank you for joining us here live, ladies and gentlemen. We're live on Fight TV. We apologize for the delay, but when you're live, these things happen. But in addition to our great partnership and our great broadcast here on Fight TV, we are also live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook Live. But we didn't come to this fight alone, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined by our associates all over the United States of America, starting with up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Andrew Dalla. How are you?
Love it. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I like your purple gimmicks there.
Oh, thank you very much. Vikings had a good draft, so there you go.
The Vikings. They play at the Metrodome, right?
They used to. They play at US Bank Stadium. You know this. It's all corporate. Yada, yada, yada.
And also in Appleton, Wisconsin, the man they call Meathead. How are you tonight, Meat?
Doing okay. I love that thing you did for Bay there. That was fantastic.
I'm a club kid.
You are.
And also, after that compelling introduction by the man they call Meathead, we've got Josh Chernoff from out in Philadelphia, PA. So says one Chernoff. How are you, Joshua?
I'm doing well. I've started drinking.
Started drinking.
Sweet.
What's in the cup there?
Absolutely nothing. I'm well. I'm happy to be here.
Well, yes, you are going to be there. It is good seeing you there. Thank you for being there. That's a lot of hair you got on your head tonight.
Man, it just keeps growing. Who knew?
Quarantine life, huh?
So, yeah, it's what?
That quarantine life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm just, if I try and do something myself, it's not going to be good.
You could take the me and Damien look. Why not? We look good.
I may at this point. I don't think I'm going to look good. I don't think I have that kind of head.
Oh, okay.
With that, we are also joined out in Brooklyn by Jason Solomon. Solomonster, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, and I think what Josh didn't want you to know is that cup was only empty because he finished it a few minutes ago. So I think
We'll be able to tell soon.
Yeah, I'm a little behind him, but we'll get there. The night is young.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining us here on Monday, April 27, 2020. It's the final Monday of April of 2020, David Hero.
Yeah.
It feels like just a week ago it was April 1st, and we were not going to WrestleMania.
You know what? This month has flown by considering all the rules and regulations were underneath, but that's just because wrestling's been so much fun.
For who?
Well, for us, right?
This
I
month
mean,
has
we're
not
here every
flown by.
Monday talking about it.
Well, let's talk about it, folks. And big news week. We are going to talk about the big news that occurred over the last few days. We're also going to preview all of the wrestling programming coming this week. And also, we've got big announcements on a huge interview coming to the Pro Wrestling Report in 2 weeks' time, and the return of the annual Pro Wrestling Report Fantasy Wrestling Draft, which starts this week.
Team Super Friends plans on dominating again and again.
I thought it was Team Mighty Mouse.
Well, they always come to save the day, but you know, Mighty Mouse is part of the Super Friends.
All right. I
We
think
are
there's three people
taking
on
your
this panel that
social
might have something to
comments.
say.
If you're watching us on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, just simply comment along in the native content comment fields there.
Native?
And yes, the ones that are with the program, the native to the program. And we will share your comments here live on air. But let's get to our big stories of the night, and let's start with WWE making public their business results just last week for the first quarter of 2020. And there were some significant news items in this this release and conference call that WWE hosted last week. Namely, David, they have done tremendous business so far in 2020. In fact, They have increased their revenues by 60% over the same time last year, bringing in $291 million of revenue and $53.3 million of profit versus a loss of nearly $7 million in profit same time last year. Now, we'll preface all of this by saying nearly all of this is from the lucrative television deals that the company has signed with the likes of Fox, NBC Universal, Comcast. But there's a lot to be said in the fact that WWE is doing tremendous financial business, and we're doing tremendous financial business going into what would not be the WrestleMania as we knew it.
Thank God for the TV deals then, huh? Is that what you're telling me?
I believe that's what I implicated.
Yeah, I mean, but let's not forget that they did finish strong last year. Things were rolling. I think so. They had a ton of momentum going into the Royal Rumble. We all figured WrestleMania was going to be a home run. The stock was doing great business last year, and then poof, like the Great Kazoo just showed up and took everything away.
Is he on Mighty Mouse too?
No, he's a Flintstone.
I thought he was on Chilly Willy, the penguin.
I have no clue who that is.
Achu? We've talked about Chilly Willy on this
I
program.
think Drew knows who Chilly Willy is. That's a Minnesota thing, isn't it?
Sure.
I mean, you got the Juicy Lucy, you got to have the Chilly Willy.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to agree with you. I have no idea what you're talking about.
WWE made a lot of money at the beginning of this year. They did so off of those TV deals. They did so in light of losing a lot of money off of their typical businesses, such as live event, merchandise, and obviously all of the money they would have made off of the different channels of revenue they get from WrestleMania. However, their stock reacted favorably. And while these numbers don't mean as much to the common fan, if you will, they say a lot about the fact that WWE made a big decision a week before these numbers were announced and released a lot of talents, furloughed a lot of employees, fired a lot of people in the hopes of saving, I believe, a total of $140 million, $4 million a month. Some are saying these numbers show that they did not need to do that. We're not financial analysts. Common sense can apply here. How do you take that assessment that many fans have and many other people have of the fact that WWE still delivered financially after firing a lot of people?
Well, I think that today maybe they were going to be okay, but we're talking long term. And you have to protect your investment for the long term. You just can't go, oh, hey, you know what? We have an extra $75 in the account today. That has to stretch. And right now, with the uncertainty of everything pro wrestling, because let's be honest, pro wrestling is a ticket-selling business. It is motivating people to either buy a network subscription or buying a ticket, and right now there's no tickets available to purchase to watch any event at this time. So, hey, you know what? They're going into survival mode early.
Let's go around the horn and hear from the rest of the team here. The associates, if you will. WWE does tremendous numbers for revenue in quarter one of 2020 compared to 2019. And they made a lot of business decisions the prior week. Dave says it's not about now, it's about the future. But what say you guys? And we'll start with you, Josh Chernoff.
I kind of agree with, you guys were talking about this earlier, that, this is talking about the TV deals and everything that was in there. I think if you were a financial analyst, or if you were looking to buy the stock, you would take a look at that and say, okay, well, let's actually see what the numbers really looked like. And I think they had to free up that money because the situation, like you're talking about, moving and looking into the future. So I think they had to do that. But I'm sure, we are going to get a lot of just fan backlash that's going to say, oh, they didn't need to let anybody go. They didn't, again, none of us have seen their books. None of us know what's going on behind the scenes in that regard. So it's kind of, I want to believe that nobody would just release talent for no good reason, would just fire people during a global pandemic just because. So I'm going on the assumption they had to do this. So I think the numbers are a little skewed, but they're always going to play it as best they can, when they're talking to the shareholders.
Well, and it's all about the shareholders. We talked about it on this program when the releases were made, that doesn't matter about Joe Blow or Joe Walmart, I think, from the campaign of years past. It matters shareholder value, and it matters what the company can deliver financially to its shareholders because they have the ownership stake in the company. And this was one of those decisions, it seems. How about you?
Yeah, I think Joe Blow actually works for AEW now. He left a while ago. So.
Andrew, your thoughts?
Well, to Josh's point, I think he made some excellent points there. I think this was 100% for the shareholders and the stockholders, but you need to remember here, did they need to release all this talent financially? Probably not, but I think the devil is in the details here, and I think WWE's business model is changing and rapidly, and I don't think they need all this talent due to the changes that they are probably going to make. So again, I understand fan backlash. I understand these are your favorite characters and storytellers, but there's going to be some major changes, I believe, because Vince McMahon and the WWE head honchos said this on their conference call. There are going to be some major changes to these live events going forward.
Vince said, and I quote on the conference call that you're referencing, when asked about live events, he did say, "I don't think we're going to be in the live event business like we were before." There's a lot of speculation out there as to what that means. If you take it at its surface value, clearly they're not in the live event business as they were before COVID-19 and won't be coming out of it for a undetermined period of time. But what does that mean for the future? And the wrestling business, as you said, David Hero, has been a ticket business. It's been about those revenues. And I think people who are quick to dismiss the absence of live events going forward for WWE, that atmosphere matters. The opportunity to get training, I guess you could call it, or work in front of a live audience without TV cameras present is invaluable. We'll see how that plays over the next several months here. But Vince did say, again, I'll repeat the quote, "I don't think we're going to be in the live event business like we were before." Now, their business has changed substantially. Live on Mondays, live on Wednesdays, live on Fridays. But that leaves a very lucrative Saturdays and Sundays available.
That stopped, at least for the time being.
Correct. I'm talking about the future.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
because he says like we were before. So, yeah. Good point, Andrew. Jason Solomon, what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Before all of this happened, they were already cutting back on some of the live events, which I think is something they had to do. They were having a lot of injuries. I think there's just a lot of wear and tear. I think it's a smart thing to scale back on the number of live events. To completely, get rid of them or get out of the live event business, I think would be a mistake. Because as you said, I mean, it's an opportunity for people to get on the road, to try things that, maybe they'll bring to TV. And you also have, there are certain cities where they do big business, where they have Make-A-Wish events that they do. So I don't envision them ever completely getting out of that. But I think, coming out of this, what does that look like? Do you space people out? Does that mean that you can only have, half the capacity of the buildings in there if you still have to do distancing between people? What about the people who sit in front of you or behind you? So it's going to be, I think, a little bit tricky for a while. I think the biggest thing, and David mentioned this, as far as why they did so well, this whole situation didn't really hit, I think, until the very end of the quarter, but a lot of it has to do with TV money. I mean, they really are living and dying based on that TV money right now. As long as they can sustain that, they're going to be okay. But if that ever falters, they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Jason, you make a tremendous point, especially out in your market. You've got the Barclays Center, you've got Madison Square Garden. Here in Chicago or in the Milwaukee area, you've got Allstate Arena. Some of those venues, if not all, on a Saturday or Sunday, any night of the year, is a guaranteed sellout of a lot of money for WWE. But conversely, there are a lot of events they run that they may break even on that they actually, in a lot of cases, take a loss on. But now you've got NXT. This has posed a situation for all companies where they have to reevaluate their business. What is our business? What was our business? Because many were complacent. WWE was probably one of them, and you could say they've innovated over the years, but they've also been complacent because what worked, worked. In the future going forward, what worked may not work any longer.
Something that's interesting when you talk about an Allstate or a Barclays, there is a break-even point to rent those buildings. Mm-hmm. Well, if they're going to continue running live events with social distancing, and let's say you can only get, instead of 100 people in the front row, now it's 47. That's a big chunk. That's a big loss in ticket dollars are those buildings going to then adjust the rent for those buildings? Because they still have to turn their lights on and their heat and their employees. It's going to be interesting to see what money game can be played to run buildings like those, or do they go back to the much smaller Seatown buildings?
Poughkeepsie?
Like, I hate to say it, but, a Veterans Memorial Hall or something like that, where you can maybe get 2,000 people.
That's NXT right now, though.
But then even then, if you get 2,000, maybe you can only really get 500 in there. So they really have a lot of work cut out for them to figure out how live events are going to work going forward.
Yeah, and there's one more point also I think is worth mentioning. Coming out of this, a lot of people are losing their jobs. People may not have that kind of disposable income. So not only are you not able to have the same number of people in the buildings, but I don't think you can just jack up ticket prices to make up for that. If anything, you might have to lower ticket prices to try to get people into the buildings, so you're getting hit double in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is you've seen a lot of businesses. The airline business is a great example. They are reevaluating their business structures, if you will. Everyone's coming out of this probably as a new operational business, meaning they're doing things differently. They're reacting to the now, but planning for the future. And now they've done the great thing, which I think all companies really need to do on a regular basis, is to determine what is our now, what is our identity, what do we need to do going forward. And those answers are several months out. Obviously, a lot of things are being relaxed depending on where you live in this country right now due to COVID-19, but nothing will be normal for a very long time. Meathead, WWE did great this first quarter.
You say normal, then go straight to Meathead? How does that even work?
Trying to make him feel
Isn't that
better.
the way it's
Getting ready
supposed
for
to
the
go?
draft. He's going to get his ass kicked too. By me.
Oh, see, now that's not right. But, taking off everybody else's points, obviously, we seem to be on the same page. And it's a multi-tiered kind of domino effect. Ticket prices would have to go down. Rental for the buildings would have to go down. Disposable income's not there. Dave, you talk about a break-even point for a building. The building has to turn their lights on and turn their gas on. Do they have the employees? I mean, there's so many different facets to all this. And, you speak of other companies, Damien, that say that it is time for us to reevaluate. I mean, we've been living in a world of excess for 100, 150 years now, where everything's gotten bigger, bigger, and bigger and bigger. It may be time to scale it back and figure out what we really need to do.
It's a good point. Everybody's going to have to play together. Keep in mind, WWE has a lot of exclusivity deals with a lot of venues around the country and a lot of venue groups, and don't think that they're not going to make it happen if they want it to happen collectively for each other. The concessions you talked about probably would need to be taken, but the human factor is what really is going to be a huge factor, is, as you said, Dave, how close will people want to be to each other? If you look at some of the countries that have come out of this a bit earlier than we did, they're still sitting with
Actually,
empty
Damien,
seats between them. They're still in places where they're not comfortable being in group environments.
That would be great, because that's movie theater seating for me. Keep people away from me. I'd have a nice comfortable spot. So you're spacing them 6-7 out apart, man. I'm going to love it.
So as we talk about those WWE TV deals and those contracts being very lucrative for the company and quite frankly saving the company through Q1 and possibly through Q2, the ratings have not been good. And I'm not one who believes ratings actually tell you anything right now, but they do tell you if your trends are changing against yourself. Meaning, if you look at Raw in the first week of January versus Raw the last week of April, and you see a distinctive difference in the trends of the show's ratings against itself without any outliers or anything out of the ordinary happening, that's a problem. And what WWE has seen is a decrease in their average ratings for all of their shows over the course of the year. Now, here's why that also doesn't matter. People are watching the same studio shows that they're not used to, and overall ratings are down. Now, this period did not include a lot of that era, if you will, but McMahon said something also very interesting on that earnings call about the lower ratings, which was something to the effect of they are down due to new stars that the audience needs to grow. And some are saying, if he didn't say himself, the lack of a Brock Lesnar, the lack of a Goldberg, the lack of whoever else it may be, is the reason the fans are less engaged in the programming. So let's end all be all it right here, right now. Do ratings in 2020 mean anything to the professional wrestling business if it's not Wednesday night NXT versus AEW? Meathead.
They do still. I mean, there's still the old TV execs and the people who buy these commercials because ratings equal advertising dollars. Now, with the deals that they have, we don't know the details on it between what they have with NBC Universal and with Fox. So maybe they sell the time on there versus WWE selling the time, but they absolutely do mean something. Again, back to 1995 or whenever it started happening, TBS and Eric Bischoff and WCW used to do that run 3 minutes beforehand or run 4 or 5 minutes. They created the overrun, and that's where they made their advertising dollars. So ratings, while they don't matter as much to how your business is going up or down to maybe stockholders, ratings do matter to the advertisers.
Andrew.
Yeah, I think to compare the 90s, 2000s, and even 2015 in ratings is absolutely asinine. I'm not saying anybody did this on this program, but I've seen people do it, and you just can't.
No,
totally
just
different
did
ball
it.
game.
No, I'm not matching the numbers when I'm saying I'm thinking. Yeah.
Right, and that wasn't a shot at you at all, Meathead. I promise.
Yeah, it was.
This ratings issue is an issue in my opinion. I think that you can see that there's more people who get Fox. Obviously, it's non-cable. A lot of people have cut the cord, so USA and TNT aren't drawing 2 million viewers a week, and that's simply because I think the product on Wednesday night is probably better than the product on Friday and or Monday, but a lot of people don't have USA. They don't have TNT. So yeah, I think ratings are a huge part of this business, and I think it will continue to be a huge part of this business. But I think nowadays people would kill for a 2 million view rather than back in the 90s when they were pulling 8s and 9s or 7s. It's just not going to happen anymore. There's more ways to digest your content than there was. So
the media landscape has changed substantially, and you've got several different ways by which people can engage, and WrestleMania saw its highest active user engagement of all time. Part of that was there were 80,000 people who couldn't be there live, but the intrigue about having to spread it over 2 nights and the matches themselves drove higher online engagement for the show.
I honestly don't think ratings mean anything right now, because we're doing ratings at a time when we've never had any of this before. So it's like, what are we truly comparing it to? People are home. People are doing. I've seen more people play board games in the last couple of weeks than I have in the last 15 years. People are just doing different things because they don't like watching wrestling without a crowd. Okay? It's like watching baseball without a crowd or football without a... You miss that charisma. You miss that excitement. So people just aren't tuning in because it's not what they're used to seeing.
If I may, Dave, I think the reason why a lot of people don't sit down for 3 hours or 2 hours is because you can go to YouTube and watch the whole show in 15 minutes. Plain and simple.
And you know what? That could be very well. But then if ratings are important, then look on the views on those segments, on those shows.
Sometimes they
people watch
out of the water.
But for people to say ratings are important, they are for a very minute part of the world. But as far as wrestling fans, as far as a Roman Reigns or a Brock Lesnar or a Cody or whoever, it's just a different time. And to go off of ratings right now when nothing is normal, I just think it's a mistake for people to put that much into them.
Jason Solomon, let's go back to the original question of, do ratings still matter at all in professional wrestling, barring the current situation? But at all. Obviously, they were a big deal in the eras that Meathead and Andrew talked about. But right now, a lot of fans still hang on the ratings outside of Wednesday nights, and they use that to determine the popularity of wrestling. Is that fair?
I think it's fair to an extent. I mean, you can't judge it by the same standards as 20 years ago. That's ridiculous, like Andrew said and Meathead also. But I think, as he said, to the network executives, yeah, it's pretty important. When it comes time to sign the next TV contract, I don't think Vince McMahon can walk in and say, well, our ratings are down 40% from where they were 4 years ago, but they don't matter anymore, so don't worry about that. That's not what they're going to want to hear. So I think, to the wrestling fan, who cares? But to the TV executive, it does. I do think that, there's probably a lot of shows right now that are down given the situation. I agree with Dave. Watching wrestling without a crowd, CM Punk a few weeks ago called it unbearable or unwatchable, I think was the word that he used. And I see the point that he's trying to make. I mean, it's just not the same. We talk about talent, when you're looking at talent that's being pushed, who has charisma And somebody mentioned the word charisma before. I think a show could have charisma, and it's really lacking in that right now. It's missing something. So I could see a lot of people just saying, you know what, I can't watch this. I'm just not going to tune in. Here's the problem, though, that I find with Vince McMahon throwing Brock Lesnar's name out there. The problem is that for months before any of this happened, when Brock Lesnar was on the show, when Bill Goldberg was on the show, the ratings were still going down. Mm-hmm. So I think to kind of throw his name out there, yes, it's one attraction that you don't have at the moment because he's not on TV. But let's not pretend that if Brock Lesnar is on the show, it's going to mean you're going to have 500,000 people out of nowhere that are going to suddenly begin watching Raw. The trends were going down before any of this happened. And that's going to be an issue for them going forward. Even when this all blows over, the pattern is still trending down. There's still a lack of interest that they're going to have to tackle.
Vince McMahon has finally admitted that his roster is not over.
I think he's been admitting that for years.
But it was...
Remember when he said it was Daniel Bryan's fault the ratings were down?
Well, and it was. Let's be honest, it was. But, I mean, he's finally, out loud admitting it on a financial call, that his roster is not over. And that is more glaring, and that needs more work than anything else right now because, again, if they were over, people would still be tuning in to watch. Because here's why. You need the crowd to tell the audience who to boo and cheer for by the energy they take off of the talent. So the live audience tells us at home who we should be booing and cheering for by how they react.
Because there are a lot of people who just follow.
A ton of wrestling fans that just follow. And right now, there's so many new talents that aren't over. You don't know if they're a good guy or a bad guy, and there's no one there coaching them to tell the at-home audience who to boo and cheer. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem you have. Right now, you can't name 5 bad guys on Raw or SmackDown, or 5 good guys on Raw or SmackDown that are definitively babyface or heel.
But I think it's a challenge. And as you said before, right now it should be excluded. The last month or month and a half should be excluded. The general question is who do ratings matter to? Should it matter to wrestling fans? Probably not. But it does, as was said, matter to the networks because Fox paid WWE the money they paid them for 2 reasons. The hope of more eyeballs, but more importantly, WWE programming is relatively cheap to scripted programming. That's why reality shows are so popular on television. They're cheaper to produce than paying stars and paying talents and going on site and producing scripted television shows. So there's a twofold deal for Fox. NBC Universal's obviously been in bed with WWE for a very long time. But I wonder if even on Wednesday nights, the fans, the wrestling fans out there, you should focus a little less on ratings, especially when you never seem to want to admit when NXT beats AEW in the ratings. There's some reason that happened as opposed to when AEW wins. And I know it's a bit more infrequent, but did you enjoy the show? Let's go back to finish this up.
Look at Drew. He's like, he was just waiting for that.
But let's go back.
Wow.
Even in the 90s.
I'm shocked.
Even in the 90s, when Raw was losing in the ratings, it was arguably the better show than Nitro. When Nitro was losing to Raw, it was arguably the better show than Raw.
Maybe not.
Arguably.
Well, you could argue. I wouldn't.
I never watched Nitro.
I could argue that too. I mean,
No way.
I think the wrestling fans are cheering for the ratings because it's the only way they can tell who's winning and losing. Because there's no other way to tell who's winning and losing.
Yeah, then look at it right. Look at it against itself. And some fans do, because again, it's about your own trends. But here's one question on top of that question. Last Friday night on SmackDown, we saw the 25th celebration anniversary of the
25th anniversary of the game.
Anointing of Triple H, the game, and a lot of people are reacting in a lot of different ways to what we saw on Fox this past Friday night. Ratings, again, irrelevant right now, but the show did take a little bit of a dip during that period of time when that celebration was going on. I unfortunately didn't see it from beginning to end, but I have seen it in its entirety since. It was bizarre. It was awkward at times, and left me with wondering, what did we just watch?
Yeah, you're getting it again tonight.
Oof, we watched a very interesting Vince McMahon. And he was the buzz. He was the takeaway. It wasn't about celebrating Triple H. It was how kabuki-ish, how weird, how odd Vince McMahon was talking about Triple H and the things that he said, But
And
maybe
Bayley.
he didn't mean to say, oh, Bayley got the Vince McMahon rub. She loved that. But I didn't get to watch it live, so I missed a lot of it, and I understand that it was edited out on the replay on Hulu or whatever it was, or on the network. But you can tell when Vince McMahon is showing the chinks in his armor, you know that it's rough all the way around for the entire company.
But did he show them on purpose is the question. Are we all being worked? Josh Chernoff, what was your take on the Triple H segment last Friday on SmackDown?
I think it's kind of an interesting time to do it. Like, I get it's 25 years and everything. Triple H is seen as one of the higher ups. You've just released a ton of talent, and now you're going to celebrate someone who's been there for a really long time, who also, a lot of people believe is only still there because of who he married. Whether or not, I don't know that I agree with that at all. I think he would still be very involved in the business had he never married Stephanie. But I do think that it was kind of weird timing. I also think you're talking about a bunch of people who are not comedians, who kind of think they're funny, doing comedy in front of no one, not being able to even play off of the laughs or lack thereof. It was all kind of weird. It was supposed to be live. It was clearly not live with some things, like the Flair phone call and Road Dogg, and then there was like the Stephanie thing and HBK. Like, it was like cute. Like, none of it offended me in any weird way. I wasn't like, oh God, this is terrible. But I just thought it was just like misplaced humor after misplaced humor. It was just kind of a weird thing to do at this point. I loved the tongue-in-cheek aspect of how Triple H kind of was like celebrating himself but wasn't really celebrating himself. I did think that was kind of interesting. Vince McMahon, though, I'm sorry, everybody's flipping out over this. Go back and watch any live promo that he has done over the last 2 or 3 years, and it is the same kind of, while everyone sticks to a script, Vince McMahon is very clearly off of a script. And I mean off of it. He's not reading a script. He is far away from the script. So this struck me as the exact same Vince McMahon that I've seen for the last few years. Anytime he's come out and cut promos, they've been very disjointed. They've been very much looked like other people were trying to kind of coax him along.
Yep.
And this very weird kind of hand in the pocket, almost head down, bizarre behavior. It's not
he's
the
Vince
Vince
McMahon.
McMahon.
He's Vince McMahon. And you're right, it
But
wasn't
it's not
vastly
the Vince
different than what
McMahon.
he's done in the last few years, but in my opinion, he's been a little off for the last several years. And
Well,
what
that's
is
what
he,
I'm saying. I think he's
79
been
now?
off. This is not-
82? 87?
Something like that. Carry the 4.
Man is in his early 70s.
Yeah, I'm sure that plays a role at some point. However,
Yeah.
some of the people north of 70 are some of the sharpest people I've ever met in my life. So
Look at you.
Absolutely. I
You're
don't-
pretty sharp still.
I don't think his
I'd
I don't
be
think
dressed
his
nice.
age has anything to do with it necessarily across the board. I think the stress that he's put on himself, maybe that has something to do with it. I think the awkwardness of everything that's been going on. It was a weird segment. I didn't hate it. It was just like a very weird segment. And why are they doing it again tonight?
Maybe they want to do a
'Cause it's
redo.
Triple H.
Wait. So they're doing the entire segment over again tonight?
No, I just think you're going to get more of it tonight. There was an ad that they ran on WWE.com saying that
Yeah.
they're going to continue the celebration.
So now, is Stephanie going to come out, or is she not there? Like,
Well, I mean, they can't keep flying talent in and out, new talent in and out. So I don't think it's a terrible idea, you know.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who else is going to call him?
Can't they do like a 7-10 year celebration of Ricochet's career?
Has he been around that long?
Yes, he has.
Who knew?
I did.
Wow.
Ricochet's been there for 7 years.
Not in WWE, nor was Triple H in WWE for 25 years.
Triple H debuted in 1995.
But again, here's the thing: who owns WCW now?
Meathead.
Exactly, WWE. So basically, he's been a WWE employee. He's been under that banner since he started.
The basis of all of your arguments were asking if Ricochet's been there for 7 years or not.
Oh, I didn't.
We
I'm not even
just
talking
spent
about that
entirely
anymore.
too much time on that right there.
Oh, we're just trying to give you some love because that's your thing. The Ricochet. Bing, bing, bing.
Let's hope
boom.
you draft him in your draft so you can continue your love.
Yeah, Damian Nelson and The Rock love Ricochet, so they might be onto something here.
Can I just say something about the ratings?
You just did. You can say something else.
I am. I'm going to. The ratings, the argument that we were all talking about before. One thing that no one factors in when everybody talks about the ratings being low, but then they say, but look over what happened on this one segment. It was, 1 million people on YouTube were watching it. We never see the retention rate on those. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, there are plenty of horrible, horrible segments from WWE that I started watching and very quickly fast forwarded through or just turned off altogether. And when you look at 1 million views, it doesn't say 1 million people watched the entire thing. It says 1 million people clicked it for at least, I think it's like a 3-second thing that they had it on there.
Oh, that's a buzzkill.
Stevie.
So I just think that it doesn't tell you.
So you're saying all my views
really
don't count? There might be 3 seconds or less?
What's that?
Exactly. That's what I've been trying to say.
Well, let's move on quickly, though, folks. And we want to thank you for joining us. We are live here on Fight TV. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero. We're joined by Andrew Baydala, Jason Solomon, Josh Chernoff, and the man they call Meathead. And this is PrimeTime Live. I want to welcome you for joining us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook Live as well. And across all those channels...
Oh, God, I was waiting for you to take an ass bump on that
one. Across all those channels, Dave, people can dress sort of like you.
If they want to, they can go to collarandelbowbrand.com, use the promo code PWR360, and save some money. Some great shirts, the Who'd You Ever Beat, of course, the Collar and Elbow brands, Life is a Work, Brother Me Softly. They are all at collarandelbowbrand.com. Promo code PWR360.
Folks, it was announced earlier this week, if not today, actually, that 2K Sports, who were behind the WWE 2K video games, are not going to be releasing a new version this year. Typically, that game had been released annually, and it will not happen this year. However, they will be releasing a new game called WWE 2K Battlegrounds. Now, they're releasing this game as a bit of a surprise. And they're skipping a year on 2K, WWE 2K, to make it better. I'm not a gamer in that regard anymore, but I used to play when those games came out, and they were always cool with me. But last year, a lot of people had a lot of bad things to say about the game, and I think that 2K Sports realizing they've got to take a little bit more time. But
Calcite was terrible.
The question: does this open the door for another wrestling video game to fill the void? Andrew, what do you think about the long-discussed AEW video game coming in and taking advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, your favorite superstar who is endorsed, Cody, did speak on this. Am I wrong? Did he? Didn't he say that there's going to be some developments and it's going to take some time? But David, I know your son's here, right? Correct? He's running the show.
Cal, we don't have a Cal cam this week, but yeah.
He plays Fortnite, right?
He plays all those silly games. Yeah, Minecraft, Fortnite.
So why isn't WWE or AEW trying to jump into that market? I mean, stop putting out terrible video games. 2K20, 2K21 was awful. This Rebellion or whatever they're calling it, Battleground, it looks very, very cartoonish, which is fine. But WWE, AEW, release your video games, but try and jump into the Fortnite or Call of Duty or something type of era there.
So I'm gonna have to disagree with you on one thing, because I've played these games for years, and every single time, the one thing when I'm going through career mode that I continuously think to myself is, why am I not able to throw my opponent over the top rope and into the waiting mouth of an alligator? And I feel like they're finally filling that niche.
You know what they're missing is those be a GM modes, because when I used to play, those were the best, when you could draft talent and run your show how you want. They're missing the boat on that 100%.
Dude, they should have just relaunched No Mercy with this updated roster.
This Battleground game is just really kind of giving me nightmares thinking about WCW Mayhem, the game, where they were stick figures and they didn't move. I mean, I want to back my company. I was a WCW guy at WCW Meathead, but that game was terrible. Terrible.
Especially coming
the only one that hasn't chimed in has been Jason. Do you not play video games, Jason?
Well, no. See, I used to be all about video games, not so much now. And I will tell you that I'm very disappointed because nothing has matched my all-time favorite game, which is the WrestleFest arcade game that came out many moons ago.
Yes.
And all the little sprites, on the screen. I miss WrestleFest. Give me WrestleFest. All these new games and Warzone and everything like what Andrew was talking about. I don't need that. Just give me WrestleFest or In Your House where the Undertaker could throw a ghost at somebody.
Yeah.
Jason, I
Hit
think
somebody with a giant hammer. Like, that's my kind of game.
Jason, I think they're going to re-release that maybe on the 1UP arcade, so be on the lookout for that.
Oh, I will.
Nice.
I already got my Mortal Kombat downstairs, so I'll be on the lookout for that.
Josh, you had mentioned, and they were just coming off that game. That was when they were with THQ, as a production company. That's where you had the WCW versus NWO Revenge. That was an amazing game. Then they went with WrestleMania, another amazing game. It was the same platform with new guys on it. Take me back. I mean, give me something that works.
It was WCW NWO World Tour. It was Revenge. Yep. Then it was No Mercy. Then it was WrestleMania 2000. And then, as far as I'm concerned, it all went to hell after that. Because those games were just awesome. They were simple. They were easy. They're fun. You could go and create a wrestler.
AEW.
Yep. Yeah, it was awesome. So
You know who's missing on this? Arda Ocal. He's the
Good
video
old
game
Arda.
guy.
We can get him on.
He would love this conversation.
So,
Yeah.
we talked about WrestleFest maybe coming back. Is there a chance we can get Hydro Thunder back?
Huh?
My favorite arcade game of all time.
The hell's
I love
Hydro
Hydro
Thunder?
Thunder. Arcade,
Jet ski game?
No idea what that is.
because you're not cool.
Well, I didn't hang out in arcades.
I didn't hang out in arcades, but I went to arcades while waiting for a movie or
I
going
love
to
NBA
a
Jam.
place where they had them. That also was released for a platform, one of them. And I wasn't asking you, I was asking the smarter guys.
I don't know if there's any plans for that, but I know that they just released NBA Jam that's due out in July for the one.
He's on fire?
Yep, and I'm waiting that. I have to put it together when it gets here, but man, I'm excited for that.
You know what we're excited about? This Wednesday, right here on Fight TV, it is the return of the PWR Fantasy Wrestling Draft. I think this is our 7th or 8th draft. I've won 6 or 7 of them.
It doesn't
and
matter
this
how many you've
Wednesday,
won. It's a new year.
team comes together and we select our fantasy rosters over 3 episodes, 9 rounds. From all of the likes of the wrestling world, we will be selecting our draft picks starting this Wednesday.
I can't
Are you
wait.
scared?
No, of you drafting? Please.
Yeah, because I've beat you 7 times.
Some of the people you've drafted over the years?
Have turned out to cause me to win.
I have a problem with this draft. How is somebody who's in the draft moderating the whole thing? Damian Nelson's moderating the whole thing. Isn't that illegal?
I'm working on that. I don't think that's fair. I think it's very self-serving.
I can
It's
do
very,
both.
It's
I can-
very
I can do both.
narcissistic.
I can do both
It's
at the
very
same time.
egotistical.
Please. I'm a broadcast journalist. You see it right there on the screen. I'm a broadcast journalist. I
think we
will
just
moderate. I
found
will
out
pick.
why he won
It will be
6
just
or
fine.
7 times in a row.
It will be
There
just
you
fine.
go, Jason.
Yeah, that means if he's moderating, that means he's in charge of keeping score, and that always works against me.
That'll
There's
be
always
fine.
some loophole you find in the end.
I bet you he lands the first draft pick too. Watch.
That happens every year.
Probably.
I'm right here.
Oh, hey. Feel better about yourself now?
No, I just
You brought the entire
your
show
your
to a
insecurities,
screeching halt?
all of your insecurities. We have 12 minutes left. We got a lot to talk about, and I want to talk about the draft, which will be this Wednesday. This Friday, we've got a brand new episode of Inside Story of Wrestling with Kevin Thorne after a great episode with Armando Estrada last week.
Armando Estrada. Kevin Thorne. He's the badass realtor right
Mordecai. Mordecai.
That's gonna be a
Why
good
am I
one.
forgetting
now.
this?
Kevin Thorne.
Kevin Thorne. Kevin
Seven-
Ferdig is his real name. Yeah.
7 or 6?
Yeah,
6?
seven.
7. Yep. See?
That this Friday right here on Fight TV. And as a matter of fact, speaking of TV, let's preview this week's TV, building up to tonight's Raw, coming to you from WWE and AEW. And we're going to start with AEW, All Elite Wrestling, which on Wednesday continues the tournament to determine the new TNT champion. It's the semifinals, actually. And in this episode, we're going to see Cody, the endorsed Cody, go up against Darby Allin. And Lance Archer will take on Dustin Rhodes, who did not lose and have to retire last week. What are you looking forward to from it? You don't watch AEW. Let's ask somebody who does. We'll go with you, Jason Solomon. What are you looking forward to out of AEW this week?
Well, I mean, I've been enjoying the tournament so far. It seems prime to me that Lance Archer goes to the finals and gets his match with Cody in the finals, unless they don't want to go to it so soon. I wouldn't be so sure Cody's going to get the win. I could see Darby going to the finals and losing, just because maybe they don't want to do the Cody match yet. You know, Darby falling just short in the end. He's the underdog going in there against a guy twice his size. I almost like that match better, to be honest with you, and then save the Cody match for later on. But this is tailor-made for Lance Archer, I think, to go all the way. And I'm looking forward to. I also am looking forward to seeing what this belt looks like. I haven't seen what this TNT title looks like. I heard it has the logo, the network logo, but hopefully it's not like this 24/7 title.
Yeah. Perhaps we will get a reveal. Now, it's interesting. After this week, we don't get the final match until Double or Nothing on May 23rd, I believe to be the case. So they're going to have time to build that story even further between the two finalists. And it will be one of the four men who will wrestle this week on AEW. We'll also see Brody Lee versus Marco Stunt Wednesday night on TNT.
Again?
Why?
It seems like Marco is working all these giants all of a sudden again.
Well, there's a rumor that Marco may want a part of Dark Order, to be a part of Dark Order.
You know, I want to go back to the match you would let me talk about before.
You don't watch AEW. You're assigned to NXT.
Listen, Dustin Rhodes has been an OG super friend for a long time.
What does this OG mean, everybody? Is that show on MTV?
I love Lance Archer and Dustin Rhodes. I think it's going to be old school, a lot of punching and kicking. I think it's going to be a fight. It's going to be brutal. And I think Lance Archer is going to very close but almost destroy Dustin Rhodes to gain anger, sympathy, raw emotion out of Cody. Because Cody will not get past Darby Allin. Because the money isn't there yet. And then I can honestly see Cody somehow helping Darby Allin then go over on Lance Archer. But
are we missing something obvious here? Because one thing that could happen is it could be Cody versus Dustin in the finals.
That's not going to happen.
Could be. Maybe that's why it should happen, because you're saying it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. It's going to be Lance Archer and Darby Allin, and then eventually Cody gets involved in that match, which then sets up down the road a Lance Archer-Cody Rhodes match.
Well, also on Wednesday night, it will be NXT, and Charlotte will take on Maya Kim for the first time in a long time, and Keith Lee is going up against Damian Priest, and the Cruiserweight tournament continues on NXT. That's the show you were assigned to, so you can talk about it.
You know what? I'm going to be cheering on my boy Drake Maverick. I'm hoping he can pull it off.
I thought he was released.
He is, but you know what? He's still there, and he's gotten a lot of backlash. Like, are they working everybody? How can a guy that's been released be allowed to still compete? Why, if he's given the opportunity to be on TV during this tournament, why wouldn't he? So many people on their way out get completely destroyed and ruined or squashed or are never seen or heard from. He's being featured and focused right now on NXT. It only increases his value for the time when he goes to the Indies, or if he does go back to Impact Wrestling, or if he goes to AEW, it only benefits him. So for him to play ball, it does him nothing but good things.
Before we get to talking about tonight's Raw and our final thoughts, let's hear what's going on in everyone else's world. Quickly go around the horn here. Jason Solomon, what's on deck for the Solomonster Sounds Off this week?
Well, it's going to be another Dark Side of the Ring review. I've been enjoying the series so far. I'm kind of sad it's going to be over in a few weeks. I don't know how many of you saw the Dino Bravo episode this past week, which was quite the sad story. I mean, I knew the details of it, but just to kind of hear from the family and his daughter, it was really sad, but also very insightful. I learned things about his early career I didn't know. Dr. D is on tap this week. David Schultz, the slap heard around the world with John Stossel. So I think that'll be another interesting.
Too bad Sean Hannity wasn't working then.
Yeah, well, that would have been quite the lawsuit there. So yes, I've been enjoying that show a lot and talking about it. And then we'll see what happens this week again in the TNT title tournament. I have a lot of people who seem to be, viewers of mine, listeners of mine, who are really engaged with the tournament. They're looking forward to it. Gives them something to look forward to on Wednesday. So should be a good night on Tuesday and Wednesday wrestling.
Thank you, Jason. Josh Chernoff, we've got some shows coming from you on Fight and podcast as well.
Yeah, we got Sosa Chernoff from April is still out there on Fight TV. Check it out and go use the promo code Josh for Manscaped. That's always helpful to us. But also
From he who didn't cut his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have they sent you the stuff yet or no?
Now, you don't use that thing to cut your hair, do you?
No, God, no. That's the whole thing. You got it for. Never mind.
Yeah.
The point is, but if
His
you
other
actually,
hair.
if you want to hear about that, you can go to the Mind of the Meanie podcast. We did a read. We actually Manscaped sponsored that as well. Promo code Meanie. The blue meanie went into details that you didn't know you needed to know, but phenomenal detail about why he needs Manscaped. So I recommend, if nothing else. But no, we've got Mind of the Meanie was new, dropped today. Check that out. It was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. And then I've got a big guest that I can't announce yet, but coming for Sosa Chernoff in May. So that's going to be a lot of fun, promoting some stuff. Former world champion. So we're having fun.
You know, it's interesting, Josh, and it's obviously all those programs available on Fight, much like we are. I want to remind you as well, Fight is also available with the Fight featured programming, of which Pro Wrestling Report is a part, on 11 Sports, which is available on your cable provider. You can find and search for those shows there. But with that, you know, Josh teased, but we're just going to come flat out and say it, David Hero. Coming to this program on May 11th, I believe is the date, during primetime, AEW champion Jon Moxley will be joining us.
You got the Mox?
I did.
Is Renee going to come along?
No, it's a whole different deal, whole different negotiation to get that part.
Why?
Now, maybe you'll see her. Who knows? But
God, I
yes,
hope
Jon
so.
Moxley's going to come on and talk to us about his AEW time and also his new movie that's going to be dropping on Fight in a few weeks. And we'll have the full breakdown of that with Moxley. And you better be good.
I'm always well behaved.
Mm.
I introduced you to him the first time you guys met.
You did.
Exactly. See? I'm always looking out for you, man.
PWR360.com is where you can find all the information about our programming, and our programming also has a daily feature, and that would be available at PWR360.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. Andrew, what is that all about?
That is called PWR Today, and I am joined by the man they call Meathead on today's episode and tomorrow's. We will review Monday Night Raw, and you know, we've had a blast with this, the hot news, debating back and forth. It's always good to talk professional wrestling with friends. And I enjoy chatting with Meathead, David Hero, and Damian Nelson. We do that Monday through Friday, every morning.
It's like a double section of meat. You're getting like a double cheeseburger right there.
Tonight on WWE Raw, in addition to whatever is happening with Triple H, we do know that there will be the contract signing between Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins for their big matchup coming up at Money in the Bank. You groan, you grunt. What don't you like about
I
this?
don't want to see Seth Rollins again.
Why not?
You know, for everyone that talked about John Cena being the one that gotten unlimited opportunities, Seth Rollins is a very close second right now.
That's because he's talented and he brings eyeballs to Raw. What I mean, what?
Okay,
I don't understand
let's
that
see what
argument
the
at all.
let's see
I
what
agree
that
with
quote
half
hour
of
rating is tomorrow with Seth
You
Rollins.
got some blue guys.
We just went over
Pretty mean
the
behind.
fact that ratings don't matter.
Of course they do.
Is that for the trolls, Josh?
Look, I'll tell everybody what his problem is with Seth Rollins is he probably falls into that category of smaller wrestlers compared to Drew McIntyre, so he won't pay him any attention, which is why he hates Ricochet, which is why he hated
I
Daniel
don't
Bryan.
hate.
Which is
First
why
of all, I don't hate.
You don't appreciate.
There's 14 other people that deserve a shot right now.
and
before
7 of
Seth
them can't get
Rollins.
there.
That's not
So,
true.
Dave, did
Then I
you
won't
hate
even
Bret
travel.
Hart, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho? Did you hate Shawn? Like, holy moly, man!
Look, I think this is a good direction to go. I don't know where else they could have gone. They're going in it. It will happen at Money in the Bank next Sunday, I believe. Let's go around the horn to end the show, folks. What are your thoughts tonight on Raw, McIntyre, and Rollins? The contract signing, will it end as they all do, Jason?
No, I mean, I don't think so. Not necessarily. I think some of the promo work has been strong on TV. Yeah, I'll give Seth his due. I'm not always a fan of what they have him doing, but he's had some good promos in recent weeks. So I don't think it necessarily needs to degenerate into a giant brawl. Drew was kind of making fun of that on his Twitter, saying, "Oh, contract signing. You know, we haven't seen one of these before." So it'd be kind of nice if it didn't end the traditional way. But I'm kind of with Dave. I'm not really buying this match.
Andrew.
Well, I wish I could agree with Jason and Dave, but I'm thrilled for this match. I want Seth to have another opportunity.
You can be wrong. That's fine.
I'm never wrong. I might, every once in a while, but I'm never wrong. Now I'm intrigued by this. I want to see Seth's promo work here. I also want to see Drew, how he's going to work with Seth Rollins. That's a big part of being the WWE champion, is who you can work with and how Seth is going to get him over, but will Drew get Seth over? And that's what it takes to be a WWE champion, or a champion in anything, which I will be in the draft. So,
Josh Chernoff.
Not particularly interested in seeing the contract signing. It's as Drew alluded to on Twitter, making the joke, as Jason was saying, it's become just a joke. It's a contract signing. We're gonna, what's that? Not the Drew on this show. No, but the other champion Drew. I just think this match doesn't really. It's like everything. Like when you guys are saying that ratings don't matter at this time. Like none of this matters really. Any storylines, anything that's happening right now, none of it really matters. It's all placeholder. I'm sure the match will be good. They're two very talented athletes. It's going to be a great match. But again, I don't know that it really necessarily matters.
Where else could they go, guys? Where else do you want them to go?
Anywhere but Seth Rollins.
Honestly, on break.
Meathead, final thought on this subject before we end the show, as Raw has just started live.
Really quick, while I enjoyed having Selena and her boys on TV, I can't do another week of the same thing where they come out one at a time and over. Let's give me something different. That's all. Just asking for something different.
That's why I
well,
like
fans,
you.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Primetime Live. We appreciate it. We appreciate you subscribing and actually turning on your notifications as well on YouTube and liking our page on Facebook. And you could end up being one of our weekly PWR super fans. And each week, those super fans get something special.
They do. They get the Collar and Elbow OVW PWR gift basket. How about that?
Everything's in there, it sounds like.
Everything. There's lots of great gimmicks. We're shipping them out now, and everyone should begin theirs very soon.
And we do appreciate those of you who engage with us most during our live broadcast. And last week, during prime time, we'd like to thank 3 users on YouTube. Telvin Kipapa wins the prize. On Twitter, Scott Zettel, Z-E-T-T-L. And on Facebook, one Michael Zielsdorf. Those were our super fans for last week, and they have one step to take to claim their prize.
All they have to do is shoot an email to superfan@pwr360.com. Shoot us your name and address, and we will get those gift baskets out to you as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I want to thank the team for joining us. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Meathead. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, Josh. Look forward to being back with you guys again next Monday. But before that, this Wednesday night, live here on Fight TV and across our social media channels and live at PWR360.com, it's the PWR Fantasy Wrestling Draft, where I will win. For that one and for everybody else, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy Raw tonight. We'll see you again live Wednesday for the Fantasy Draft.